Good afternoon, dear colleagues. My name is Nataliia Romanyshyn, Lviv Politechnic National University, Ukraine. Let me present the results of my research, application of corpus technologies in conceptual studies, based on the concept Ukraine actualization in English and Ukrainian media political discourse. The conceptual analysis is the main method of concept study, both within the lingua-cognitive and lingua-cultural science, allows analyzing a concept as a complex notion, an entity of the general conceptual model of the world. There are several approaches and methodologies of conceptual analysis. However, in modern conceptual studies, there are observed the tendency towards integrated comprehensive methodology based on both. The application of quantitative and qualitative tools enable the processing of large textual material with aim of obtaining most objective results by covering the largest possible number of concept expression contexts, either in the whole corpus of national language or in intentionally created ones, with the purpose of profiling the concept from specific thematic and discursive perspective. Thus, the corpus technologies in conceptual studies have become the most productive way of conceptual information obtaining and interpreting. In this paper, we aim to reveal the efficiency of corpus-based technologies in conceptual studies and the application of corpus methods for the defining the concept Ukraine nominative field structure and frame modeling of concepts content field in modern English and Ukrainian political discourse. For the purpose of the research, two text corpora were created, English and Ukrainian, that included 400 open access sources text extracted from 2014 to 2017 English and Ukrainian political media discourse. The study of cognitive-semantic aspects of the concept textual realization is preceded by the definition of its nominative field. Explicit lexical verbalizers of the concept Ukraine are lexemes Ukraine and Ukrainian and their coreferents that represent the concept in their unity or on the basis of metonymic transference. Implicit verbalizers are the expressions that describe a corresponding situation of reality by qualitative characteristics defined by interpreting the contextual information. The application of concordance programs makes it possible to define on the basis of lexical frequency the main lexico-semantic fields and their correlation within the corresponding text. The data obtained in the result of lexeme frequency analysis and lexico-semantic field definitions enables us to determine the character of contextual environment of concept Ukraine verbalizers reference both in English and Ukrainian political media discourse, since the concept can be explicable in correlation of its lexical representations and within the context of background knowledge. Thus, the analysis of the concept Ukraine discourse verbalization specificity, both in Ukrainian and English political media discourse, conducted by application of AntCon 3.2.4W program and the procedures of lexico-semantic analysis, led to the conclusion about direct and indirect verbalizers, their lexical, semantic, grammatical parameters, and lexico-stylistic characteristics. The analysis of frequency data and distribution of lexical units enables to determine the dominant lexico-semantic group that constitute the contextual background of the realization of direct and indirect metonymic coreference of the concept verbalization. Special attention has been paid to the frequency and distribution of lexemes with evaluative and emotional meanings defined on the basis of sim-componential analysis. The frequency of lexemes with axiological semantics demonstrates the considerable prevalence of negative verbalizers. The concept Ukraine is a dynamic mental entity constructed in the process of interrelation of subjects of modern Ukrainian and English political media discourse in the result of embodiment of notional evaluative content in the names of referents that represent Ukraine metaphorically. To analyze the metaphoric actualization of the concept in the discourse, the corpus technologies have also been applied. For this purpose, the corpus annotation was performed with the aim of metaphors search facilitations. The analyzed verbal material and empirical data processing on the basis of corpus technologies enabled to define the following ways of the concept Ukraine metaphorization in the Ukrainian and English languages. So, spatial metaphor, ontological metaphor, structural metaphor, metaphor personification, metaphorization of color, metaphor metonymy, and idiomatic expression. So the following diagrams represent the results of metaphor analysis types frequency in the discussed languages. Well, both the linguistic cultures personifying Ukraine as a human being in the metaphoric model Ukraine human being as a subject of activity, subject of communicative interaction, subject of performing definite cognitive acts, and subject of psychological or physical states. The second in frequency is ontological metaphor, which reflects the idea of British and Ukrainian politicians about Ukraine in the whole and its state, situations, events as object of values and emotional interpretation. The state of Ukraine, notions and associations related to it are construed to the concepts of bitter substance, stone material, valuable, invaluable things, fragility, turbulence, etc. Definite aspects of cognitive representation of Ukraine are embodied in terms of low and high temperatures. Consequently, the core of the imagery level of the concept consists of metaphoric transference Ukraine human being and Ukraine substance material with definite physical characteristics. Structural and spatial metaphors constitute near-nuclear zone of the concept structure. Among the productive mechanisms of metaphorization, there are notions of motion in general, motion in the space which dynamics and character have corresponding associations. For example, up and ahead positive, back and down negative. Both English and Ukrainian discourses employ the metaphor of motion, orbit, and way. On the periphery of the concept structure, there are metaphor metaphony, metaphor of color, and in the English political discourse, there are metaphoric idiomatic expressions traditionally connected to the conceptual spheres of sport, cuisine, and health. Concept structural organization can be represented in the form of frames. The linguistic consideration of frame is closely connected with the content aspect of a lingual sign that embodies logically arranged information about a certain fragment of reality. However, the creation of the concept frame is rather disputable and depends on both type of the concept and type of discourse. We proceed from the definition of frame as a set of standardized, actual potential knowledge about the phenomenon in question that has a complex multi-componential structure and forms a holistic understanding of a certain concept. The analysis of concept Ukraine verbalizes in the political discourse of both languages, the analysis of the lexical representation of the defined domains supplemented by the analysis of contextual semantics of direct and indirect, explicit and implicit verbalizers of the concept, metonymic reference and associative coreferents and their pragmatic meanings within the selected discursive fragments testify the high semantic similarity of logical informative and evaluative character of the concept Ukraine actualization in both discussed linguistic cultures at the current stage. In the process of the research, there has been analyzed the correlation of logical informative aspect of the discourse displayed in the feeling of the conceptual domains and its pragmatic logical aspect expressed in the system of evaluative senses, verbalized in the different structural levels of the discourse, from a word to an expression. Consequently, the notional and axiological level of the concept has been represented in the form of a frame which slots display the defined cognitive features of the concept that recreate a corresponding aspect of the reality, states and processes of sociologically political character, their positive and negative evaluation. Conclusions. So, this sign of national language in their discursive actualization are the main objective empirical data for the revealing of conceptual information and comprehensive conceptual analysis performance. Any existing programming tools that facilitate the processing of extensive mass of language material are a productive way to carry out conceptual analysis in itself, or to serve as a supplementary instrument of investigation. Corpus and concordance technologies applied to the study of discursive actualization of the concept Ukraine in Ukrainian and English political media discourse, maintained by a unity of linguistic, semantic, and cognitive interpretation procedures, prove their heuristic and scientific potential. Thank you for attention.